the whole idea was to delegitimize the field of journalism and make people not trust anything, because it's a lot easier to win people over when you don't have to have factually verifiable claims.
Watch and or listen while we tackle tough and sometimes taboo topics filmed live over drinks. This platform allows us to articulate our thoughts and challenge our beliefs. This is SipTalk. Grab a drink and enjoy. All right, that's a long pour. We've been waiting for it. Welcome to SipTalk, episode 274. My name is Justin DiGiulio, joined by James, the Bosnian Boswell, philosopher, philanderer, philanthropist, philatelist, phlebotomist, man of many PHs. How's it hanging down there, James?
A bit of tough last week, but at least I'm putting in the miles on the bike. Weight is going down and watts are going up. So
that is good. I hear you've been getting a lot of miles on the bicycle lately. You told me you did how many miles before we joined the cast here?
15, which is on the shorter side for me now, and I did that in less than 45 minutes.
Nice. Well, look, so we got a new format today. I think we struggled a little bit with getting ourselves online, but I'm hoping things go smoothly because we are live on TikTok, live on Instagram, live on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook. So we're basically everywhere, and we're doing this new format with a call-in. So once we'll take some calls if they come through. I don't know, between our listener and whoever's listening in the background. But aside from that, we'll see how it goes.
With the ticker at the bottom,
with the ticker, yeah. I mean,
all I want to do is start putting in fake headlines at the bottom.
That could be fun. So I don't know how it's going to go. I don't know how it's going to go with this ticker. We've tried something similar to this in the past, but I guess it's really going to come down to our topic today. And our topic today is professions that have lost respect and things that are acceptable today that will no longer be acceptable in the future. I think we're going to start out with some with the professions and move on to what'll be canceled in the future. And I know you didn't like the term cancel because that was a big hot button term for you. And then we've got bar trivia. We've got the answer to last episode's bar trivia that stumped you. I don't know if you remember it, but we'll get there about halfway through the episode in about 25 minutes. And I've actually got some funny things I read this week. I want to share them with you. You ready?
Let's go.
All right. I know we get a little audio delay, so we'll work with it. An 85-year-old is playing golf with the course pro, who offers him a 12-stroke handicap. I don't need the handicap, says the elderly man. The only problem I have is getting out of the sand traps. As they approach the 18th hole, they're even, but the old man hits a long drive, which lands in a sand trap. From there, he knocks it out and rolls right into the hole. The pro is stunned. He said, "I thought you had a problem getting out of sand traps." "I do," he said. "Give me a hand." I think that's funny. I knew, I read these. I was like, "Oh, these are great. I got to share them." And in my head, here's what happened. I read the joke, and you just nodded. And literally, what just happened? If you were watching this, I just read the joke, barely containing my own laughter. And James goes,
"Yeah, I mean."
All right, I'm gonna crack a drink here. I got another one for you. Two businessmen were commiserating with each other. One said, "Things have gotten so bad, I hired a professional worrier. I don't have to worry anymore." "That sounds great," said the second guy. "How much does he cost?" First guy said, "He costs $150,000. Second guy said, "How are you going to pay that?" The first guy says, "Well, that's for him to worry about."
Yeah. No, because immediately I was thinking I don't know, that's his problem.
Oh man,
that's exactly I was just thinking what's the smart ass response there? Oh yeah, I don't know, that's his problem now.
All right, I'm out of jokes for this episode.
I mean,
apparently
I'm thinking about I've got a joke that involves a sand trap if we can do it.
Can we do it? I don't know. We just got the okay for the TikTok live. I don't want to get banned again if that's what you're insinuating.
It's mostly clean.
All right, run with it. Hit it.
All right. So an American businessman is flown out by his company to Tokyo to help facilitate a merger with a Japanese partner. And he's scheduled to play a round of golf Saturday morning, and he flies in Friday night. And so he lands at the airport and has a chartered limousine to the hotel. He gets settled in at the hotel, and after an hour of getting settled and just
All right.
like showering off, he gets bored. So he goes down to the front desk and he asks the front desk, "Look, I'm here traveling on business by myself. Like, would you be able to arrange for an escort for me?" And the front desk gives him a list of phone numbers to call. He calls one up. A woman arrives, and after as he's finishing off, she starts shouting, uh, "Hashimoto, Hashimoto, Hashimoto." He doesn't speak any Japanese, so he doesn't know what it means. Eventually, like, she cleans herself up. He pays her. She leaves. He goes to sleep. The next morning, he's out on the golf course with two Japanese executives and their translator. And they're on the third hole, and it's a par three. And the two executives tee off, and they both land on the green. And then the American hits a shot, and it's a little bit short. It's in the front side bunker. And so he's next to shoot. He goes up to the bunker, gets his sandwich out, and hits the ball straight into the hole from the bunker. Now, he doesn't know any Japanese, but he wants to show the Japanese executives that he's really excited about what just happened. So he uses the only Japanese word that he knows is tied to excitement. So he's running around the green going Hashimoto, Hashimoto, Hashimoto. And the two Japanese executives look very confused. They say a couple words to each other. They call the translator over. They say something to him. The translator walks over to the American and says, "What do you mean it's in the wrong hole?"
All right. See, I gave you a courtesy laugh. It is funny, and I knew that was going to be. I knew that was going to be the answer. So what you don't know, the minimal editing that I do to this podcast is I actually take the podcast, I drop it in a Final Cut Pro, and then I take the speed and I bring it anywhere from 108 to 112% of the total speed. Generally, because the way that you speak, especially when you tell jokes, is way too fucking slow. We gotta work on getting to the point. Both of us.
Both of us. All right.
With your jokes.
So, getting to the point. Let's jump right into the main topic, which is let's start with professions that were once respected and now aren't so much.
All right. So number one,
politicians.
Now, so the question is: Have politicians ever really been respected?
That's a difficult question to answer. I would guess that throughout basically the entire arc of history, there have been people that have criticized politicians and disrespected them because in order to be successful in politics, and I think this is true in practically any era, it involved a lot of ass kissing and kind of self-debasement to get the support you needed to get elected. And people tend not to respect that quality in people, and I can understand why.
Yeah, I get that as well. You know, the thing is, I feel like, I mean, just think about like the 50s and the 60s, and when the only information that was coming into your home was through, 3 or 4 different avenues, well, same avenue, 3 or 4 television channels or a handful of radio stations.
Like 2 or 3 newspapers, really.
You basically just took what you were hearing as fact, and I would think that while politicians may not have held everybody's utmost respect, and arguably not half of the country's respect, over the last, since the age of the internet and the information age, which is basically at the dawn of the internet, a lot of that respect has gone away.
Well, I would say that the respect started to erode with Joseph McCarthy and the McCarthyism era of the 50s.
Yeah, fair enough.
I would say that the 60s, it kind of stayed pretty level. And then a lot of people point to Nixon's presidency as when a lot of Americans lost faith in government. And then through the 80s and 90s, you had a lot of like talk radio became really popular,
Mhm.
and that's much more populated by the conservative voices than liberal voices. And you had also Newt Gingrich realizing that with C-SPAN and everything in Congress being broadcast on TV practically 24/7, like Newt Gingrich realized, hey, there's all this free airtime that we could take advantage of. And so he would either himself or get somebody else from his caucus every night to just like speak for an hour and a half or 2 hours when there was like 2 other people in the entire chamber.
No, that was the same number of people watching C-SPAN also.
Well, probably, but the point was that he realized that this was a resource that could be tapped into, And yeah, I mean, in the last 10 years, it's only gotten much, much worse, and we don't need to talk about that because I talk about it enough.
Yeah, the last thing that I was going to add, though, was that even though in the past you had elections, specifically presidential elections, where roughly half the country voted for the other guy, the loser, and yet people had a lot of respect for the role of president, and a lot of that has eviscerated, and presidents have lost a lot of respect, in regards to that. But piggybacking off of politicians, another profession that has lost a lot of respect.
Oh, can I just like, I've got one liner about politicians from one of my favorite websites, despair.com. Politicians are like diapers. They should be changed often and for the same reason.
So piggybacking off of politicians, next is journalists. And I'll give you two reasons why journalists have lost respect. Well, I think the one that's standing out to me right now is the ease of becoming a journalist these days, and the ability to be able to share your opinion as fact across. You don't have 3 or 2 newspapers these days. You've got 4,000 publications that are at everybody's fingertips, and you've got that kind of confirmation bias of, that's not the word I'm looking for, but you know what I mean, where people seek out the groups that share their beliefs and just exist in those groups, and you have people publish,
Well, this one's really complicated because you can look at the death of journalism from a number of different angles, where the profession of journalism is much harder to get into now because making money as a traditional media apparatus such as a newspaper is really difficult in the age of the internet, where information is available in real time and for free, and paying for a newspaper subscription to a lot of people doesn't make sense.
No,
So newspapers struggle to find.
Listen, it's very easy to get into. It's very difficult to make a career out of making money.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, like, anybody can get into it, but you have to actually know what you're doing as a journalist and to be trained in terms of how to research, how to write stories, what standards need to apply to yourself.
This is why it's lost respect, because the consumer doesn't know the difference anymore. The consumer doesn't know the difference anymore, and and most journalists are not partaking in those things to qualify themselves to become journalists.
Well, yeah, because it doesn't make a lot of financial sense to go to journalism school and spend tens of thousands of dollars for that degree when it's such a difficult career to get into. I would also say that the rise of especially right-wing media that deliberately misrepresent stories, and this also comes, I'm just going to blame the right wing on this one, is that the loss of respect in journalism is by design through actions that like right-wing media has taken. And you can look at Fox News.
On that note, I will agree with you that it started on the right, but I will tell you now that it is rampant on both sides. And I remember saying for a long time that if the left wants to start winning again, they have to match the shit that's going on the right, because that's just how consumer behavior is. People are tending.
Okay, but even if what you're saying is
now it's bad on both sides.
Right, and what I'm saying is, even if what you're saying is true, that it's as bad on the left as it is on the right, which I disagree with. But even if what you're saying is true, and even if what you're saying about how the left needs to match the right's tactics, that's still
agreeing with it now. I'm saying
okay. But what I'm saying is, like, if you're correct in saying that the left needs to match the right's tactics, that's still a victory for the right, because the whole idea was to delegitimize the field of journalism and make people not trust anything, because it's a lot easier to win people over when you don't have to have factually verifiable claims. And that, like, yeah, it's, if you can just lie unchecked and nobody can tell the difference, then, well, I mean, basic logic, if you start with a false premise, then you can make anything true.
All right, so what else we have after that?
I love how the careers that have lost integrity appears right on me.
I have no lower third is my only option actually for text here. So
yeah, I know, but it's just like, yeah, this guy right here.
So police officers. We talked a little bit about this afternoon. We were prepping for this episode, but police have lost integrity, and a lot of it has to do with with
You
the
know what?
general public having.
We need to put a caveat there.
Well, hang on. Hear me out.
Okay.
With the general public having cameras on them 24/7, so we've seen police brutality go up and alien abductions go down, given that people have recording devices on them 24/7. But it's not that, it's not the majority of the police. It's a handful of bad actors that are giving a bad name for a lot of the police, which is undermining respect in police.
I want to circle back to that one because I want to start by saying, like, police losing respect, that's among white people. Among black people, like, if you were to ask black people, they'd be like, yeah, this is nothing new. Like, we've been complaining about this for a lot longer than you guys have. So it's white people becoming aware of what black people have been going through since the dawn of police, at least in the United States.
All right, let's see. What else we have here? You want to bring the next one up so it's not coming from me directly?
Well, I can tell you, having worked as an accountant and had clients that were real estate agents, I very rarely had respect for real estate agents.
So real estate agents once were the people who had the information. They had the knowledge, they had the information, they had the market knowledge, they had the connections. As a lot of information has been digitized and is available online through public records and images and floor plans and et cetera, and descriptions and photos, that knowledge has left the minds and the 3-ring binders in the real estate offices, and it's just online. So a lot of people have access to information that was once gate kept, I suppose, but I wouldn't even say really gate kept, because there was no way to get it to the consumer as broadly as it's available now. But I think the biggest argument against real estate agents is there are a lot of them that are really, really lousy, that don't have any market knowledge. And then because they are negotiating on behalf of different parties, they often negotiate with their interests in mind, which is the exact wrong way to negotiate. I've done deals for zero commission because it was the right thing to do. I've cut my commission so that the deal went through. I try to, the biggest part of how I do business is the consultation, when I sit down with a client and spend time learning about what it is they're looking for and their motivating factors for moving. And I tell people very often, I want to be able to envision in my mind's eye what you're envisioning is the right place for you. But most agents don't do that, and they just look out for themselves.
Well, you can think about it, and I'm going to talk about from the sell side. So imagine you're selling a house and you need to get a seller's agent, right? So there's competing interests here, even among people that are supposed to be on the same team. Because if you're selling your house, what's your goal? To get the most amount of money for your house, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're a seller's agent and your commission's 3%, then your goal is to get that house sold fast so that you can sell another house and keep on getting that 3%. Because if your client makes an extra $50,000 on the house, but it takes you an extra 2 weeks to sell it, you work 2 weeks for $1,500. And you could say, if I sell it for only $20,000 extra, well, I only make $600 more, but I was able to sell in 3 days. And so
I'll give you another example though. So say the seller is offering let's say 4% commission to the seller's agent if they do the deal direct to a buyer, but they're offering 5% in total if another agent brings a buyer. So there's 2 agents. So the 2 agents would make 2.5% each, versus the seller's agent making a full 4% if they get somebody direct. So what happens oftentimes is that seller's agent will not answer emails or return phone calls or text messages as quickly when they come from a buyer's agent as they do when it comes direct from consumer. And that's because they're looking out for their commission.
Yeah.
And that's wrong.
And there's also the stereotype that, like, and mostly this is mostly women, that like bored housewives or bored single women see, like, they like houses, they like looking at pretty things, and they like talking to people, and so they're like, oh well, like the licensing course isn't all that hard, and I can just do this on the weekends, and every once in a while, like, I'll get a big paycheck. But they don't really understand what goes into real estate. They just see it as like a hobby that they can sometimes get paid for, and they get to like see cool houses and meet lots of people.
Yeah, you have to promote. There's a lot of building up to be able to get to the level where you're just getting this residual referral base and repeat customers. And that usually can take 12 to 20 years really to be able to get to the part-time level.
Yeah.
Next up is doctors. Now, I don't know if I've said it on this podcast, but I've said it between friends and family for probably the last 22 years, since I was like roughly 18, and lost healthcare, is that doctors, I was thinking about this the other day as I was walking around the city, and somebody was talking about some actors and very popular people being in whatever space and how they were nervous. And I was thinking, like, why would you, like, how are you that starstruck by just somebody who's an actor? They're just a regular person. For you to like freeze up and not be able to speak with them just because they're in a movie, to me, by the way, they're not the character in the movie, right? Like, they're not that person. They're just a guy who like films it. It's just very weird to behave in this starstruck manner around somebody who just shows up and gets filmed for a handful of hours a day.
I haven't understood that either, and I'm not going to say who it was, but back when I was working in hotels, I ended up having like a 4 or 5 hour long conversation with an A-list actor that I didn't even recognize at first. But once they told me who they were, they're like, "You didn't know who I was?" And I was like, "No, but I've seen lots of your movies. I like them." And he's like, "That's cool that you're just talking to me because like you wrote to it." And like we talked for like 4 or 5 hours, but like I was never starstruck. I was just like, "Yeah, tell me some stories about like what happened here," because like I thought that was a cool scene in the movie.
So look, and the reason that I give that as an example is that people treat actors and A-listers and popular celebrities like they are some type of godly entity, and the same thing happens with doctors. People just believe that because somebody's a doctor, and I've been saying this to family for a while, like, let's think about it. Here are the questions that you're going to ask, and they're going to tell you all these things and what they think you should do, but generally that's just guessing, and it's them guessing because they went to school for this and they learned this, but they also learned a zillion things, and a lot of this isn't fresh on their mind. At the end of the day, they're just human, and they have additional resources and a background in this. But you should, on your end, not just take what they say as the word of God. If it's your body and there's a major concern here, you should do your own research and like know what's going on.
Yeah, the problem is like there are so many gaps in our knowledge with medicine that like a lot of times even like doctors that are extremely knowledgeable in one particular area are still going to be like stuck with making their best guesses. And I think about the time that I was in the hospital when I was 20, if you remember that era. And like after I got out of the hospital and everything, I asked the doctors, like, "Do you guys have any idea what caused any of this?" And they're like, we have no idea. Like, it seems to be fixed. We have no idea why this happened.
A lot of the medical field is simply guessing, and most of the time they guess correctly. But what a lot of people don't understand is a lot of it is guessing. The alternative side of this, and the problem with the advice that I'm giving, is that somebody goes and runs a WebMD search and believes they have cancer and demands that they have 2 months worth of testing that cost them $80,000, and they had cancer. They just had a headache.
And that's part of my issue with you telling people to like do your own research. Is like, sure, the doctors are guessing, but the chances are like 99.9% to like 0.01% that like their guess is better than yours.
I know. And I do agree with you, and that's why it's risky advice to give. But I will say that faith in doctors has gone down a lot, and especially given coronavirus and all the bullshit that was happening, and a lot of it was from this very kind of leftist medical field, which was like a really weird thing that the medical industry became so left.
I don't think that. How is the industry left?
It just got kooky during coronavirus, where
give me an example.
6 feet of distance was just a number they just kind of guessed on and said that sounds good. They told people not to wear masks, and then they mandated masks. So I'll give you another example.
How is that left? How is that leftist?
I got the best one for you.
I don't see how either of those first two examples have anything to do with left or right.
Follow me, okay? Anthony Fauci. Okay, I had a lot of respect for him when he first started speaking. I watched every press conference with the president. I watched every press conference with the New York governor, and I watched every press conference with the New York City mayor for at least. I listened to every single one.
Where is this now with the left?
When they were talking about public gatherings, okay, And I had a lot of respect for Fauci because to me he seemed like the more independent, knowledgeable guy in the medical
how
field.
this is leftist.
Okay. We can't be having people go to church because social gatherings are not a good idea. We can't be having concerts because social gatherings are a good idea. Mr. Fauci, what about the Black Lives Matter protesting? Protest gatherings. Could that be a spreading events? And he said, well, I don't understand the question. and the reporter said, well, you said that we shouldn't be going to church, we shouldn't be going to concerts or other gatherings. What about the Black Lives Matter protests? And he said, I don't understand the question. And that was the moment where I was like, oh, wait a second, this guy's realized that his base is the left. And how is he not understanding the question? Listen, I will find the press conference for you by the next episode, and we can listen to it together. And that's when I lost respect for Anthony Fauci.
Yeah, well,
it was that moment moving forward. And how's he doing today?
Well, he's been completely dragged by the right wing, so I don't think that's a fair question.
He continues to lean into it, and he's been completely politicalized.
Here's what I would have to say: is
you can't tell me you can't go to church, and then when somebody says, "Well, what about protests for Black Lives Matter?" and he goes, "I don't understand the question."
But I want to actually see. I strongly feel like you're misrepresenting what actually happened in that question, so I need to see it. But what I will say is, when it comes to whether to wear masks or how social distancing works or anything like that, I feel like you had a bunch of people that had their heads in the right places and wanted to try and mitigate this, making their best guesses as to what would be best public policy. And it's okay to get things wrong if you're trying to do things correctly, and also acknowledging, hey, these ideas that we had 6 months, 3 years ago, whatever, hey, that turned out to not be effective. Acknowledge that. Say we were trying something, it didn't work.
But they haven't. Nobody's still saying vaccines for children were a bad idea. And
well, lots of people are actually.
Well, not that many of them, and a lot of people are still stuck in that camp.
But I think just talking about the masking and the social distancing is missing the key point, which is that nobody really knew what was going on or how best to address it, and they were making suggestions that had at least a reasonable basis and logic for why they might work. And people pushed back on them, not because they were good or bad ideas, but because they just didn't like being told what to do.
But closing hiking trails, shutting down beaches, arresting paddle boarders, filling skate parks with sand. I mean,
I'm not going to defend every action that was taken. What I'm saying is that you have to look and say they were trying to do things, and if they screwed things up, we shouldn't be dragging them to the gallows for it.
Well, I will, because it destroyed my business, and it destroyed the livelihoods and lives of a lot of people. I want to hit last week's Bart Trivia question. We'll zoom through the rest of these, and we'll get to the other side of this, professions that, what's our other side of this, that still have integrity. We can discuss those. And I got you with this Bart Trivia. Do you remember the last Bart Trivia question?
Something about people standing facing each other or something.
How can you physically stand behind your father while he is standing behind you?
Yeah, and I said something about a mirror.
And the answer is, how you physically stand behind your father while he's standing behind you is you stand back to back.
Yeah, I felt dumb after that one, but no.
Yeah, I know. I got another good one. I got another good one today. That's got a silly answer, and I think we're going to get a lot of people. Don't forget to visit SipTalkPodcast.com. You can answer each week's Bart Trivia question for a chance to win some cool merch like pint glasses, beach towels, dog shirts. If you have a dog and you want a dog shirt that says, actually, I have the human shirt on that says Sip Talk on it. You get a nice Sip Talk dog shirt.
Let's race through these last other.
Yeah, there's a handful of them.
All right, of professions that have lost respect or are no longer respected at all. Next one, lawyers. Yeah. And I would say, lawyer jokes and lawyers not being respected, I feel like that goes back as long as lawyers have existed.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is with lawyers, it's 98% of lawyers that just give a bad name for the remaining 2%. It's a really it's a really corrupt field. All right, religious leaders. Let's lead with the Catholic Church here.
Let's also leave at the Catholic Church.
All right, CEOs and tech founders, once visionaries, are now often viewed as exploitive capitalists, privacy violators, and job eaters.
Just look at like any accounts of how Steve Jobs treated other people or how Steve Jobs smelled.
Yeah, man, not akin with deodorant. All right. Okay, next one.
Social media influencers and its strange credulity that they were ever respected.
Well, so you probably don't know this because you're not on social media, but there is a huge rise in live sellers. And I've thought about trying to find a way to do this. I won't do it because I'm not going to spend time earning money, but not direct time to earn money because I don't believe in kind of getting paid to log in the hours. But and this might be a slight twist, and I don't know. I'm drifting in the wrong direction here, but live sellers. So basically, everybody can have their own QVC channel selling other people's shit. And I have the board game business, and I thought about doing this around the holidays. Thought about hiring somebody to do it again because I wouldn't do it. But now it's just as I flip through social media, it's like every third slide is somebody trying to sell gum or beauty products or whatever.
There's not a day that goes by that I don't think, man, I should have just joined social media. Real quick, Sasha says teachers, and I actually am going to disagree. I think teachers are still mostly respected.
Yeah, that's a dicey one, especially with gender politics and basic education. All right, so
I think that teachers are having their lives made a lot more difficult by various political forces, but I think overall society still thinks that teachers can provide a valuable role and often do.
All right, so next up is academics, which is the same as teachers basically. But they're talking about like people that run universities and
I think like the administration of universities has absolutely lost respect. I think professors, it's a mixed bag.
Yeah, next up, auto mechanics. Auto mechanics, I would think like there's a lot of really shady auto mechanics out there.
And you could do a YouTube search and find plenty of videos where like mechanics are charging somebody like $500 to change blinker fluid or something like that, and then like it turns out that it's actually like a $10 fix or something. Right. But
yeah, and also just like the medical industry, a lot of mechanics is also guessing because sometimes you don't know exactly what the issue is going to be. But there's just a lot of these guys that have no idea what they're doing either. They can twist some nuts and bolts. And they know how to use a wrench, but they don't actually understand the mechanics of a vehicle.
All right, last one. Bank managers. So they used to be like a pillar of the community, and that like everybody in the town knew, and like they would basically be personally responsible for approving like personal and business loans and stuff like that. And now that like all the underwriting is either like outsourced or just like automated, the bank managers are just like customer service reps who replace debit cards.
Yeah, no, that's the whole plot of It's a Wonderful Life. You remember that Christmas movie? Yeah. This guy was like the nice guy who gave out the money based on trust to the people in the neighborhood. That's not at all. You can't go to the bank and say, hey, I need a business loan and here's my business plan and I'm a really good guy. You can trust my word. Like that's not that. If you said that to somebody who's like under 30 years old, they'd be like, "That. Why would the bank ever give you money?"
Yeah.
No, they used to. You had a good business idea and you were a good guy. All right. So some careers that still have integrity. Number one, leading firefighters. I mean,
I would agree.
That's a job to sign up for. You understand your risk in your life.
And no rap group has written a song called like "Fuck the Fire Department."
Librarians. Did you hear about Trump firing the whoever's the head of the Library of Congress?
No, but it doesn't surprise me because he's a terrible person.
He didn't understand what her job was. Actually, he fired her for basically giving children access to books about transgenderism and shit like that, and like that's literally not what the Library of Congress does.
No.
Next up, careers that still have integrity. Nurses. I would say very underestimated are nurses.
No, they do a lot.
Same thing with like PAs and other people in the hospital. Careers that still have integrity. Again, this one is kind of borderline, and that's teachers. But being a teacher is you either there's two reasons you become a teacher, and one is because you don't want to work, and two is because you actually enjoy spending time with kids.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, if you get into teaching because you don't want to work, you're gonna wash out really, really fast because
You're done every day at
teaching.
2:30, and you have
Yeah,
some,
and
so
yeah, but
that's why you got into it.
you also have lesson plans, grading, after school meetings, parent teacher conferences, calls with parents. Like the amount of work that teachers do outside of the school, outside of school hours is insane. Like most teachers, they might only be working 35 or 40 hours inside the school, but chances are if you were to tally up all the hours that they actually work during the school year, it's probably more between like 65 and 80.
Yeah. All right, paramedics and EMT. That I mean, I'd still say that's a respectable career, and it's a very difficult career.
And it's super underpaid.
That is true. A lot of people and very high burnout rate because it's very intense.
Yeah, you're seeing people die every day.
Yeah, it could be tough. Tradespeople, plumbers, electricians, in that respect, I think that is. I mean, there are some people that take advantage of customers and things like that, but generally speaking, people who have a skill that takes time to refine, that's built through experience, working with their hands. That's a tough business, and I think it deserves a lot of respect. It's tough to do. Farmers, I think being a farmer, like you got to wake up at the ass crack of dawn, if not earlier, and you work really hard. It's a physically intensive role.
And there's a tremendous amount of uncertainty on it because you don't know exactly what kind of crop yield you're going to get. A lot of your success is up to weather and other conditions that you can't really control.
Well, and there's also the outside factors like monopolized seed and things like that.
And also just that you don't really have much control over whatever the market clearing price of your crop is.
Yeah, exactly. That's not in your control. Therapists and social workers.
Oh, this one's controversial.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of most therapists. I think and now that therapy has become very acceptable and everybody's bragging about how they go to therapy, although less so over the last couple of years, but there was a while where people were so proud to say, it was a status symbol to have a therapist. And then people tell you what their therapist says. And I find a lot of therapists are just royal idiots who have no intention of healing somebody and helping them fix their problems, but just perpetuating having a regular client.
Yeah, about a week ago, I got some rough news, and the day after, I was thinking maybe I should do an hour of therapy, and then 3 seconds later, I was like, no,
not bad idea. Nonprofit workers, yeah, I mean to a degree, but a lot of these nonprofits themselves are black holes for money. So.
It very much depends on the nonprofit because
exactly.
I when I was in public accounting, I did audits of nonprofits,
mm-hmm.
and the Dorchester County Habitat for Humanity, the people there were great, and they ran a really clean show. Everything was accounted for from an audit perspective. They did a really good job with their accounting, and they were on top of making sure that the money was being.
I got your point. So they were a good one.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. And then we got another one: craftsmen, artisans, woodworkers. And again, these are inherited tradespeople. Lots of hard work. All right, so we got 15 minutes before we run out of time, and we're going to talk about things that over the next decade are kind of going to go out of favor.
Some of them already are, some of them may, and some of them I don't think will.
Okay, well, the number one on here, and I've been saying this for a while, we actually have maybe 100 episodes ago, we did an episode where the title of the episode was something about meat being illegal, and meat eating. They're saying in 10 years, very potentially could be like wearing a fur coat.
I don't think it's going to get to that extent, but I do think that over a longer period of time,
maybe not in 10 years, and also if lab-grown meats and technology gets us that much closer to the mark of having non-slaughtered animals that
because there's the animal cruelty aspect to it, which I'm not going to ignore, and then there's also the resource allocation aspect, which is the amount of resources you have to put in, water and food and everything else to feed the animals. If you were to just put that water and other resources towards some kind of plant that humans can eat, you get way more.
Yeah, if humans are eating plants over meat. The other thing I was going to say is, Sasha says the meat ban is not going to go well in the red states. Well, what I was going to say is also you got to account for the lobbyists on the pork, beef, and chicken.
Oh, yeah, I don't think it's ever going to go away, but I do think that public sentiment on it is going to sour.
No,
where eating meat becomes more of a luxury than a daily occurrence.
I said this before, and I just said it a second ago. It's going to be like wearing a full fur jacket.
No, because fur is completely unnecessary. It's you're doing that just to show that you can afford a fur coat, whereas eating meat does satisfy nutritional needs.
Okay, well, a fur coat keeps you warm, and eating a $89 steak in a steakhouse to me is like wearing a fur coat out to the theater. Same thing. Same thing.
Very large.
I mean, and here's the point: is wearing a fur coat seems obnoxious and a show off because you have so many other options for jackets. The point that I'm saying is in 10 years or 15 years, going to a steakhouse and eating meat or going to the grocery store and getting a big slab of steak when you have so many other plant-based options or lab-grown options is going to become just as obnoxious.
So let me stick with your analogy here, is that the difference between a fur coat and a good high quality winter jacket or a good high quality pea coat or something like that in terms of warmth and functionality is the fur coat's not doing any better of a job than a good quality jacket that costs 1/10 the price, right? Whereas if you want a good quality steak today, there's no substitute for that.
There's no substitute today.
Right. So in the future, if there become substitute goods that simulate the experience of eating a steak without actually having to raise and slaughter a cow, then you might start to see people going away from traditional meat. But we don't have those things yet, so there's no substitute products for the meat that people like to eat.
This is predictatory.
All right, next one.
Yeah, private education and legacy admissions. Well, I think legacy admissions is something that's really already being challenged. And I have mixed feelings on this one. We haven't actually done a podcast episode about this. Maybe if we have some interest from our listener, we could do a podcast about this.
I don't think elite private schools are ever going to go out of favor because, the really best schools in the country are going to attract some of the best professors of people that were absolute tops in their field of whatever, are going to want to go there for the prestige and the pay, and students are going to want to learn from those kinds of people. And you could only access that by going to those schools. The legacy admissions
That's the other side of the coin, yeah.
I could see legacy admissions starting to be curtailed, but the thing is, schools have no financial interest in doing so.
Yeah.
Schools have every financial interest in continuing the practice because legacy, I remember when I was a sophomore in college and in high school, the guidance counselors pulled us in, there was a group of 5 of us, and there was a talk about college plans or whatever. And I was 15. I was I don't want to think about college. I just want to go back to class. Right. And so the guidance counselor's all right, guys, let me ask you a question. What do you think the most important criteria is for you to get admitted to the school that you want to go to? And with MSCB, it was alumni donations. And she's no, it's not that. I was yeah, it is.
No, she wanted you to say good grades.
Good grades or extracurricular activities or else. Legacy admission, alumni donations.
With all reality.
Yeah.
All right. So the next one's interesting, and this is wearing cultural fashion at festivals, and I think that just has to go with appropriation of different cultures, and that's kind of the point. I don't know. I was listening to a podcast earlier today talking about sombreros and how the only people that wear sombreros are white guys who have been to Tulum or something like that. But you don't see a lot of Mexicans playing mariachi music wearing sombreros in the U.S.
Here's the important thing to consider when it comes to this: is if you're wearing some kind of an outfit or a piece to your outfit that has some kind of cultural significance that's outside of what you are, the question is, are you wearing this out of respect for the culture, or are you using this to kind of poke fun at the culture? And I think a good example of this in the movie world is Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder. No, like he's a white actor that did blackface, which we can all agree is not something that like should exist anymore.
Yeah, the story about how he actually accepted this role, he was like, "There's no way in hell I'm doing this."
Right, but the thing is, like the way he portrays the character and the way that he comes off is not disrespectful. Like it's not punching down. He's making fun of people that do that kind of stuff. It's self-aware.
It was, but yeah, the self-awareness and it not being disrespectful yet kind of tongue-in-cheek. It was a great role, and he's a great actor.
But it's the same thing with where if you're wearing something that is outside of like your culture, like are you wearing it out of respect for another culture, or are you doing it to like caricaturize what another culture
does? The
does?
bullshit that happens is that people don't know. They just see you wearing a kimono, or I don't know. You don't see non-Jewish people walking around with yarmulkes on. Like so you know.
Right, and so like if you were to see somebody that you know isn't Jewish wearing a yarmulke, you would have some questions of like, are you trying to make fun of the Jews here, or why are you doing this? And so like context, in almost every case, context matters.
The third party never has the context.
Right, but like that's why like Robert Downey Jr. was able to get away with pulling off blackface because he did it in a way that contextualized his role, and you could understand why that happened. Whereas, like, if you look at like 30s minstrel shows, it was caricaturizing it and making fun of black people.
Yeah. All right. Next up, mental health memes. Posting funny memes about anxiety, depression, ADD, ADHD. Future generations could look at it as trivializing real disorders. And here's what I think is that that's the wrong direction for that to go in. I think the bigger we make these disorders and these issues, the worse it actually becomes for these people who have these disorders and issues. I think everybody, I think 90% of people are like fucked up to like a significant enough degree that if they wanted to, they could make it the defining characteristic of their life and let it ruin their life. So I think to a degree,
if everyone has a mental illness, nobody has a mental illness.
Well, but everybody has a mental illness. So I think to a degree, we do need to kind of be trivializing these things and saying, yeah, we're all kind of living with some bullshit, and we get by. Rather than saying if somebody has ADHD, they need to be overly medicated and the world around them must be bent to allow them to function.
I don't like
in reality, that's never going to happen.
I don't like the word trivialize because, first of all,
trivialize is a bad word.
Right. That's why I'm saying, like, first of all, you never know what it's like to be in somebody else's head. And so you don't know how bad or good they have it. And so I don't think you should be trivializing anything that somebody tells you is a problem for them. And it makes me think of like the phrase about mental health, which is like your mental health is not your fault, but it is your responsibility.
Yeah, I would disagree to a degree. Whereas, yeah, people have issues going on. I tend to downplay it because at the end of the day, you can lean into that issue and let it become your life-defining issue and let it fuck with your life, or you can just deal with it. And if that means you need medication counseling, then fucking do it. Okay? Yeah, but don't let it be an issue for me because it's not going to be an issue for me. Okay, your issue is not going to become my issue, and welcome to the rest of the world. Right?
What I'm going to tell you, having been in relationships with people with severe mental illness issues, like, and having friends and family that have had mental health struggles, like saying just deal with it.
Well, no,
fundamentally misunderstands the issue.
What did I just say? Just deal with it. So if you can deal with it yourself, fucking deal with it. If you need medication, you need counseling, deal with it. But I also I don't live, but I work in Manhattan where 20% of the people on the street are mentally ill crazies. Okay. Those people need to be put in a clinic with the doors locked behind them and their arms tied behind their back. That's the severe end. But yeah, people need to deal with it. And if they're not going to deal with it, it's not going to be my issue. Somebody else's mental illness or depression or anxiety is never my issue. And nobody should have to tiptoe around every single person. They just have to. I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with this one.
Next.
I'll let you read this one.
All right, making fun of boomers / age-based jokes. Nope, I hope that never gets old.
Yeah, I agree. Again, tiptoeing around people, I think we need to be able to make jokes and not trivialize things, but the people need to have a thicker skin. Okay,
Yep.
and
Especially for a generation that, like, the fucking boomers always say that we're a thin-skinned generation, and you say "okay, boomer" to them one time and they lose their shit. So you know what? No, not interested in hearing any of their complaints.
Okay, so here's another one: overgeneralizing gender or sexuality. Even well-meaning assumptions like girls love brunch or guys don't talk about feelings might be flagged as microaggressions in a more evolved future discourse. Well,
And to the person who says, and you know what? If anybody ever says to me microaggressions, I know we're just not going to be friends.
well, exactly. So I disagree with this one. I really hope that the tides turn on this, and we don't have to, and we can still generalize
Right.
and make assumptions and not get.
Let me tell you why. Is if anybody ever says microaggressions to me, that to me tells, like, that's a way of them shutting down a conversation that they are intellectually too lazy to have, because there's nuance and context in everything that you say. And if you just say, well, it's a microaggression, you're just controlling somebody's ability to express themselves without taking the time or effort to understand what they're trying to say.
No, yeah, you can't just undercut what somebody is saying. I agree with you. Let's move on. I want to hit the bar trivia. So
all right, next one: posting posting kids content online without consent, and that's like posting pictures or videos of your kids and stuff like that. And I hate this trend.
Yeah, I'm not unless it's a private post to just your family and friend. I think that's okay. But having public posts with this stuff, I think is
no, like if you're just sharing it with, like, if you're a parent and you're sharing like a video of your kid to like your brother or your like the now grandparents or whatever, that's all normal. But like just putting stuff out there in public for everyone to see of your kid doing shit, that's wrong.
Here's the last one. Then I'm going to hit the bar trivia. Good intentions as a defense, and this is like the argument of like, I didn't know the law, so how could I be breaking it? I meant to do good, but
ignorance is not a defense.
Yeah. So I didn't mean it that way as a shield. I no longer fly in a culture that demands accountability. Yeah, again, I don't really care if I hear other people.
I want to hit the last one. I want to skip 9, but I do want to hit 10.
All right, go ahead.
Which is having physical standards in dating apps. Like, if that ever becomes taboo, the entire dating scene is over. Like,
yeah, you can't choose who you're attracted to. Like, that's not. I completely disagree with that.
Yeah,
everybody has an equal chance in the dating field is not reality.
Like, if I were on a dating app, if I ever come across a profile that doesn't have a picture, I'm instantly swiping left. I don't like. You need to show me what you look like. That's an important factor in a relationship, is whether or not you're attracted to the other person, and there's no hiding it.
Yeah, to the other person. And
right.
Again, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Well, the one that you skipped was beloved sitcoms and stand-up comedy being taboo because they are outdated jokes and insensitive.
That's not going to happen because, like, we still watch Looney Tunes and we just look at it and see, like, yeah, we know this shit was written in the 40s. Like, of course, there's going to be some stuff that's wrong in it. It was written back then.
Yeah, like Pepe Le Pew being a sexual.
Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff that's wrong about it, but you can still watch it and be like,
Speedy Gonzalez being,
Yeah.
All right, so I got this week's bar trivia question. Don't forget to visit SipTalkPodcast.com. Answer the bar trivia question for a chance to win some cool Sip Talk merch. And there's some cool stuff in the merch store. If you don't want to play to win, you can just buy it. It's all for sale. What is at the beginning of eternity, the end of time, the beginning of every end, and the end of every place?
Oh, I know this one.
What is at the beginning of eternity, the end of time, the beginning of every end, and the end of every place?
I know this one.
Well, you can answer it off air.
I will.
But that's a good one. I like this one. What's at the beginning of eternity, end of time, the beginning of every end, and the end of every place? That's our podcast for the evening, episode 274. Thank you for joining us on Sip Talk. Visit SipTalkPodcast.com. Buy us a drink, buy us a round, buy us a bottle. We thank you for being here. Don't forget to subscribe to the audio podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We will see you. You will see us next time. Justin DiGiulio and for James Boswell, we bid you an adios.